So Monday Night Raw happened. That's kind of how I felt about it today. But we kick things off with Oba Femi and Jey Uso. You got Yeet Man in the ring, and you've got the Ruler in there too, and they say some words at each other. I wanted Oba Femi to annihilate Jey, mostly because he did the run it back, and Oba let him, like LA Knight let Jey do it. Why would Oba do that as a character? He's so gigantic and strong. He doesn't think anything of Jey Uso. Shouldn't he have just absolutely annihilated him? This promo was basically just to set up the confrontation that these two are going to fight at King of the Ring in the finals. Who's going to win? Who's going to lose? It kind of feels to me right now that Oba Femi's going to lose. And the reason I say that is because I think Brock is looming a Night of Champions and he will show up. That's my early prediction here. And you get the Bloodline. Maybe they're more involved with Jey and they help him out to give him the win so that he can go off and potentially fight Cody at SummerSlam. But I'd love to know what you think. My name is Matt. Welcome to Assemble, everybody. If you guys can't hit the subscribe button, it goes a long way. Thank you very much. So with this, I didn't think it was very good. I wanted to see a little bit of a brawl. I wanted to see maybe Jey hit him with a chair. Maybe try to get a sneak attack on Oba. You know, wear him down before their match. No. It was a lot of just Jey out of breath. Really out of breath. Really having a hard time there. Oba just looks dominant, powerful. There's no reason on paper that Oba should lose this thing is really my whole point here. And I say it's like garbage. It wasn't garbage. It just wasn't very inspiring to me because I just don't feel like it did anything. I'm just waiting for, I think, the inevitability, the idea that Oba should just win the entire thing very easily. I do think they will give us a twist. Now, do I think Monday Night Raw was bad, like altogether? I just didn't like it? No, I just found it just kind of like, it was missing a lot of the top stars. That was my main takeaway here. You got Oba on the show. Seth Rollins made an appearance, but I really noticed this week that you didn't have the Romans, Punks, Seth like featured more in a match or anything. Becky wasn't on the show. You were missing huge top names for your program. So it felt very middle of the road. Now, I will say one big plus that I did like out of it, now that I sat on it and I ate it a little bit, it's a really gross thing I could have said right there. I could have said just about anything, couldn't I? And that was it. That's what came out of my mouth. So I didn't think it was all bad because they did lay a lot of groundwork for future programs, which is really good. And I think it's kind of necessary, especially we are now going to be going past Night of Champions into SummerSlam. They need to get things moving. They've needed to get things moving for quite a while now, but we'll talk about that because they did do a couple of different things. So aside from Oba and Jey, I love to know if you think Jey or Oba, who's winning, who's losing. But then you got the women's tag team title match. You got Primo going with Paige, and they are going up against Lyra and Bayley, and this match was fine. I have not given two hoots about, that's a nice way of not swearing and cursing here, but I have not given too much about Brie and Paige being tag champion. I felt the women's division, the tag team division, was doing so well, like right up until about WrestleMania when the Bellas got involved, that they were doing a lot of different things. And man, oh man, it is really disintegrated now, especially when you have like on the other side, like Charlotte really feels like she's going on her own now. Bliss and her are still buddies, but they're not tagging as much. It really feels like a whole lot of nothing happening, and I need these tag titles to change. Now, I did like the finish to this. So you did have Brie and Paige retain the titles. They pin Lyra, and then after the match, you had Bayley just going up and giving hugs to Lyra, like, it's okay, buddy, we're doing fine. But then Lyra's had enough. Lyra snaps, she turns bad, she hates Bayley, and I think this is great. It's a heel turn by Lyra. I would have pegged Bayley to do it at some point, but I'm glad that they're doing it this way because one, I wanted to see this match and this program. I pegged Bayley to be the one to go heel because I've seen it before, but this is interesting. Bad guy, bad girl Lyra could actually work, and it could do a lot for her. And Lyra feeling also, I think the character gets more justified with getting frustrated to this point because they keep losing with Bayley, and Bayley is just not helping very much. So I'm glad that this will probably be the match I'm going to say at SummerSlam. This is going to be a good blow off, or maybe it's going to be the start of a feud. But I think this was a good move to make, freshens it up. And again, it's one of those pieces that are like, okay, now we got something else to go towards SummerSlam. And then maybe they'll see like Nikki Bella come back, and then maybe they'll turn on Paige and then they'll get the tag titles again. I don't know. Women's tag team division now, all of a sudden, I'm just like, I think this thing needs more work. But then you got Mr. Chad Gable. Now here's a big question for all of you. Do you like Chad Gable's theme song? This isn't the first week for it. I think it's the second week he's come out with this thing. And it's like a country rock thing with Gable's name in there, and I don't know how I feel. You know, the part that I think works is that it's got his name in it, and that is to get the crowd to chant Gable. So that's good. Where I don't like it is you got Gable cheerleading his own song with the clapping of the hands at the beginning. It didn't like that. Like, I don't know. The theme's here to stay until they decide to go back to an old theme song for him. Again, I can see it kind of working. You got the Gable name, you want the crowd participation. But when I see the wrestlers, when they do that of like, come on guys, put your hands together. And I'm like, we are not at a Nickelodeon concert, my friend. Although some days it does feel like that. So they had Gable out and he brings out Alpha Academy. He wants to do and continue his apology tour that Gable has been on for weeks now. And so he's not in any programs. It's just about saying sorry to everyone. But I did like this. I liked Gable's delivery with this, everyone's reaction to it. And then you had Otis about to say, I accept your apology, it looked like it, and Maxine stepped in the way. And I thought that this was great because one, you've got Maxine who's been flirting and twerking and talking to Austin Theory. You could see that something is there, hopefully. And now she's stepped up to Chad with real logic and reason behind, hey, I don't accept your apology, or we don't, and this is why, because you were really mean to us and you hit us with a belt, amongst other things. But it does give Maxine, I think, a little bit more depth. I like that she's frustrated. She's speaking on behalf of everybody else. And now you got an interesting dynamic of Otis and Tozawa. Maybe they're reluctant to like be with Maxine, or like they do want to like get back together with Chad and they like him, but Maxine is kind of being mean about stuff. So I think that they could, now that we saw the ending of Raw where you got new tag team champions, spoiler, but you could see that the vision will probably move into something else past Night of Champions. And this could be it, or part of it, is that eventually Maxine is going to turn on everybody and go off with the vision. Because it felt like that. She almost could have said in the promo tonight, like, I see a vision and it's not accepting your apology, Chad Gable. Chad's still a big babyface. There was a slight moment, I'm telling you right now, there was a slight little moment where I thought that when Chad was going to be like, something I want to say to you, Otis, I thought he's going to be like, I apologize, but I'm not sorry for anything. And then he decks Otis, but he didn't. He's still going to be a good guy. What are they going to do with Chad Gable? He has come off such a high from AAA and that match with El Grande. And now what? Like, I get they're doing all the Lucha apologizing. The Alpha Academy is an interesting piece here. I am interested to see what they will do next, but I don't want to see Chad Gable back, like, doing tag team stuff. And I feel like they're gonna just miss this opportunity of his popularity and have him down in that Otis and Tozawa land instead of pushing him higher. And maybe we'll get there. Maybe they just want to get through this story arc, and then that's like past SummerSlam, and then we see something more for the guy. I hope so, but you got that momentum, and I feel like they're not cashing in on it on the right way. Like, all this apology stuff could have been done in a day, and they're just stretching it for weeks. But I did like the segment. And then you got another segment. I didn't like this. I'll tell you this. This is a Raw episode where Matt is like, hey, that was good. Hey, that was whatever. That happened. It was a lot of that happened. That's what I felt. So here's something that happened was Liv Morgan and Iyo Sky. And Iyo gets interviewed in the ring, and then you just have Liv coming out with her belt, and she's going to be, as she said backstage, double champion. And she's going to win the Queen of the Ring, and she's world champion. She's going to fight Rhea. She's going to melt the belts together, and screw you, Iyo, you're not winning. Iyo hits a dropkick on Liv knocks her to the outside. End of segment, that's it. Liv being in Queen of the Ring, to me, has felt like just a whole way to keep Liv doing something since WrestleMania, because she's had no opponents. She came out of Mania, she did nothing. And then they got her into this, and this has been it. All the way to the finals. I do feel like it's going to be Iyo winning this thing, because maybe there will be shenanigans with Judgment Day costing Liv the finals and costing her Queen of the Ring. Because we saw backstage with Raquel, Roxy, JD, who got zapped, which was hilarious. I found that hilarious by Danhausen, and the way JD was playing with it. But she's rubbing Roxanne the wrong way, and I like that. That's a good thing. Maybe it will kind of pay off when it comes to Night of Champions and Liv loses. I cannot see Liv winning Queen of the Ring just to go and fight Rhea. Rhea is also injured in real life, so we don't really know what's going to happen on that side. Again, if Liv loses and she doesn't win Queen of the Ring, she back to, well, obviously just being world champion, so what does she care? But then they got no opponents, man. They got nobody lined up for her. They could just turn around and Iyo wins Queen of the Ring and then says, hey, Liv, now I'm going to fight you again in a month at SummerSlam. Like, are you really going to do that? I don't think that's a good idea. She could go off and fight Rhea if Rhea's going to stay champion and all that, and she recovers in time. And I think that would be tremendous for Iyo and Rhea to go at it one-on-one once again, because it's been enough time, and that's a feud worth doing at SummerSlam. Liv's whole position with this is just what I find. I'm like, whatever. She shouldn't be champion at this point, but WWE, I felt, has done a bad job of building up opponents, anybody, for Liv. Like, it was Stephanie Vaquera, and then she's injured. And they were just going to redo that probably at Backlash. We didn't get that, so here we are. I just feel like it's been such a holding pattern. And they have slow burn this Judgment Day deception stuff. Triple H sledgehammer sucking it, loves to slow burn everything. I get a little annoyed. Like, on one hand, I like that they slow burn some of the creative to let things breathe. But week after week, when it's just these minute details of Roxanne not really happy with Liv's statement, it doesn't lead to anything. So we need more. I didn't think the promo did anything, because I'm just like, yeah, you two are going to fight just like they did with the men's. That's how they advertised it. So it felt like a whole lot of nothing. It would have been good if, like, Judgment Day came out, I think, if Raquel and Roxanne came out during that promo, maybe help Liv to attack Iyo. Or Liv is like, here's the plan. You guys come out and attack Iyo for me, and then they don't do it. And then Liv gets mad backstage, and she gets knocked down, and the same thing happens. And they're like, oh, we forgot, or we were distracted by JD. So speaking of JD, I'll talk about this now. I thought it was great. You had Danhausen backstage. You had Dom who's claiming that Danhausen stole his money, spent his money, and then JD touches the basket, and he electrocutes himself like The Miz has done. And I just love how they kept going back to it with JD and his reactions to all of it, and that, like, his brain is all messed up. So I think it was just funny. It was good comic relief. I enjoyed it. But then it's another example of, like, you have Dom, AAA champion. Dude does nothing on Raw. He literally just kind of walks around with Judgment Day. Has he wrestled in a long time? Like, I know the Oba match, he had that. But once again, I'm like, you have no program for this guy who's a high profile star, and you're going to SummerSlam, and his program now is Danhausen. But one story they did advance, and I'm intrigued where this goes. Again, it's little crumbs here and there. But you got LA Knight, going up against Jimmy Uso. They're backstage, and Nick Aldis sets up the match, but then LA Knight sets up the match himself. Sure. And then they have it, but then you have Solo coming out. So Jimmy is on the ropes. Solo comes down. I thought he was going to say that he got tickets, because that's what he's done before, and that was great. I still assume Solo got a ticket, hops the guardrail, gets in there, spikes Jimmy, and LA Knight scoops in and gets the victory. Very interesting piece here, and what's going to happen next. Jacob was backstage with Jimmy and Jay, and I love that Jacob just calls Jay a punk ass every week. It breaks me, and I think it breaks the Usos. It's just funny how he delivers it. So he's always hot at Jay for just telling him what to do. And so they're talking, though, about how is Solo going to show up or not, because Jacob was at SmackDown once again. So Solo did show up. He spiked Jimmy. This could also be a swerve. Like, on paper, it would look like, okay, Solo is not going to join back with the Bloodline. But I think that is probably part of the story and the swerve they will maybe do, where Solo does end up aligning with them. Maybe his MFTs kind of kick Solo out because they're sick of him, and then you have Solo moving over. Something needs to break there where Solo does end up coming back, and I would love it if he did, because of the new version, this version of Solo we have today, where he's more comedic instead of just being the bodyguard henchman guy he was before with Bloodline. His personality can really shine now, and I think it would be a lot of fun. So I'm interested to see where it goes. It's probably, if I had to guess, you're probably going to see Jacob back on SmackDown. Not wrestling, but talking to Solo again to be like, hey, what was that about? And then Solo's like, stay out of my business. And then they're like, okay. Now for next week, or I assume it's next week, the Judgment Day were backstage, and then they were talking about how, well, Liv was given orders about matches. So they're dealing with JD. He's got to go to doctor. It's not Adam Pearce. They thought it was. And then you've got Liv saying that there's going to be a match of Raquel and Sol Ruca. So that, assuming, is going to happen next week on Raw for the IC title. And then she does say, or Roxanne says, hey, what about me? And they immediately have Liv cut and just worry about JD and Dom and getting them to the doctors. So I like that. Again, they're building that tension, but they gotta pay this thing off real soon. Seth Rollins has a sit down with Corey Graves, just talking about the steel cage match. But the more interesting piece that came out of this was Seth just talking about how, hey, when I win this cage match, I'm done with the Vision. I felt like I've heard that before. And then he's going to move on to getting his title back that he never lost. So I do feel like that is going to be Seth's story. Is he going to win the steel cage match? Probably. But I kind of feel like the Vision almost need it. But either way, when that steel cage match ends, Seth needs to move on. Maybe it's Roman at SummerSlam. Maybe it's down the road. but I feel like that's going to be Seth's next chapter with all of this, and I'm fine with it. I think that the Vision story with Seth has just got to be done now, and I think we're pretty much there. Because then you have the main event, tag team title match. You got the Vision going up against Street Profits. Street Profits pick up the victory, and they are new tag team champions. And I'm glad that they did this because it felt like the right thing to do, especially because Breakker has the cage match with Rollins coming up. You needed to get the tag title off of him, because if he lost this thing, maybe he doesn't lose Breakker. Maybe he doesn't lose at Night of Champions. Maybe he beats Seth. Or there's Bronson Reed who comes back. Or something else happens where Braun Breakker can get a win, because he got the distraction in there with Seth during this match, this tag team match. You also had Joe Hendry come out because Logan Paul was going with Brass Knucks, and Hendry's music hits, who I haven't seen in forever. He comes out and he runs off Logan Paul. So he's out of there. Then Seth comes out, distracts Breakker, and Street Profits get the victory. Felt like the right move, and like I said, get the belts off of Vision. They can work on new chapter and new story after Night of Champions. Feel like maybe they'll go with Otis and Tozawa, but Breakker's gotta kind of feel like he needs that win, man, in that steel cage, or else his stock's going down a little bit more, and Seth will be off doing title things, potentially. So when it comes to Night of Champions, you got all the matches that are all set up. Now they have 6 matches on the card. It's a shocking thing, ladies and gentlemen. I know this because it's Triple H's world, and it's a 5-match PLE, a play all the time. They are being generous, and they're giving us 6. What they did confirm with Night of Champions, though, is that the first hour of Night of Champions on ESPN is going to have the King and Queen of the Ring finals. Iyo and Liv will be on the first hour, and then it's going to be, or vice versa, but then it will be Oba versus Jay Yeet, and they will go out in the finals. So I also feel like Brock is going to get involved in the finals, because then it will be a big, on the WWE TKO side of things, it would make sense to me. You get Brock to show up because you want to pop the numbers in that quote free first hour on ESPN, so that people will go and buy the rest of the show. They'll be like, oh, Brock showed up. Oh, that's surprising. That's shocking. I want to see the rest of the show. And then they buy. That's why I think Brock shows up, but I could be wrong. And then it should just be then Oba just destroys Jey Uso at the end of this thing. So I was happy that Raw set up a bunch of things, mid-card stories anyways, going into post Night of Champions. Oba and Jay in the opener didn't feel like it did too much, but I am interested to see what happens in Night of Champions. If you want to talk more WWE topic, click right here, subscribe to the channel if you guys can. Have a great day. See ya.